And now we will begin with that wonderful Disenchanted theme song. The dog just came up to me and was like, "What are you doing? What is that sound?"
You forgot all the hey, ho, hey, hey, hey.
Yeah. Not the best theme song from a Matt Groening show. Man, I haven't watched The Simpsons or Futurama in years, but I can still remember those off the top of my head. We just went through 10 of these episodes in a row, and then I was just like, it's a bunch of hey and hoes and fart sounds. I think that's what it was. Hey everyone, this is our post-Geekout reaction for Disenchanted. That was what it was called, right?
Disenchantment.
Disenchantment. Okay, I was like, I know I'm not quite right on that one. Again, we just watched 10 episodes of these in a row, and I don't quite even remember the name of it. So yeah, hi, I'm Aaron.
And I'm Michelle.
So yeah, we're just gonna talk about these 10 episodes that we watched. We don't do TV shows a lot anymore, but this is being talked about a whole lot by people because people are saying it's a real big letdown. And I went into this, I think a lot of the people who went into this thinking that was a big letdown went into it going, oh, it's the guy who created The Simpsons and Futurama. I went into this after those people had come out and said, yeah, it's not that good. So I kind of went in with lowered expectations, and in the end, I think it's okay. I think it's alright. You definitely liked it more than me.
Yeah, it's like, but yeah, there was definitely like a bit of a letdown, but at the same time, I can see like a lot of potential in future episodes.
That's the thing. A lot of people were looking at this like, oh my gosh, it's the guy who created The Simpsons and Futurama. And as I was watching this, I was like, oh yeah, the first season of The Simpsons wasn't that good. Neither was the second season. The first two seasons of The Simpsons really just kind of bland and just kind of very mediocre. It wasn't until about season 3 when they got a whole new writing staff on board that all of a sudden it started to change around, and then like season 5 they got a whole new writing staff again, and yeah, it went to a whole other level up there. Yeah, it took that show a while to get really good, and Futurama I thought was great from the start, but again, season 2 was better of Futurama than season 1. But, you know, unlike The Simpsons, where season 1 was like, I don't know if this show's gonna be around for that much longer, where all of a sudden it just like skyrocketed up. Futurama was really darn good in its first season. It just became really darn great in the second season. But this one, it is kind of like that first season of The Simpsons, where it's like, I see potential, but they need time to figure this out.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping they get different writers on board for the next season because, as I mentioned, that's kind of what led to the success of The Simpsons. And the same thing kind of goes for Futurama because everybody points at Matt Groening and goes, oh, he's the guy who created Futurama. It's like, it was Matt Groening and David X. Cohen, who was one of those big-time writers on The Simpsons who helped make that show great. It was those guys teaming up together. And that's the thing about Matt Groening. Everybody looks at him like, oh, he's a genius when it comes to creating shows. No, he is a genius at picking the right people to make his shows great. That's Matt Groening's special ability, is he can find the right people to write his show. He hasn't found that quite yet for this. And I kind of want it to stick around. It's definitely going to stick around. It got enough views to get a second season. But I'm hoping that they do bring on some different people. I'm hoping that they do kind of open the floodgates and just go, okay, who saw this show and has got some ideas of where it can go? But I'm interested to see if they'll do that because one of the big differences between this and, say, Futurama or The Simpsons is that there is an ongoing story from, like, episode to episode, which is something that I was actually wondering about because, yeah, when you have Netflix, it's made to be binge-watched. And binge-watching standalone episodes, it's not as great as binge-watching things that kind of lead into each other. So I was wondering if he was going to do that, and indeed he does.
Like, also, it's a fantasy. It's based in, like, medieval times with fantasy creatures and all that, so it's like, there should be an ongoing story, because that's kind of what you expect from the fantasy
genre. It feels like they're trying to, like, kind of parody, like, Game of Thrones a little bit. And it's like, yeah, the big appeal of Game of Thrones is the continuing story of it. So, yeah, you do need to do that, and I found the continuing story in this to be interesting.
Yeah.
There is some interesting cliffhangers in here.
It's like, it's when they did, like, standalone episodes that I didn't really care for.
Yeah, and oddly enough, a lot of the standalone episodes, though, did end up coming back around. Like the thing with the witch in the gingerbread house.
Yeah.
That ended up coming back and being like a big part like later on. I had no idea that was going to come back around. And it was always kind of a pleasant surprise when something returned.
Yeah.
In fact, there's some things that I kept like waiting for to return and they never did. Like the prince in the first episode who gets impaled on the sword, he's there in the second episode, and then he's gone until episode 10. I was like, it kind of like, that feels like it should have been a running gag. Like the I'm not dead yet guy.
Yeah, I guess so, but like, I kind of felt like some of the things should have just been
dropped.
Yeah, just been dropped because like there tends to be like the whole thing with the wedding. I kind of felt like that dragged on a bit.
Yeah, I felt like that.
I felt like that should have just been like one episode.
One episode. It was 2, and yeah, it definitely should have only been 1 episode. I totally agree with you on that one. Because it's kind of weird that it almost feels like the first 2 episodes of this are an hour-long pilot.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, then make it an hour-long pilot.
Yeah.
You're on Netflix. You can make your first episode an hour long. No one's going to question you on this one. And I know people are going to say, well, you can binge watch it, so what's the difference? It just feels weird pacing-wise.
Yeah.
For you to go, end of episode 1, episode 2, still continuing that storyline from episode 1, storyline resolved at the end of episode 2. Now we're into what the actual show is going to be about.
Yeah.
Like, what the actual show should be about should be here at the beginning of episode 2. So yeah, it was just kind of very odd sometimes with this pacing.
Yeah, it's like you did have a problem with the pacing and just not just like the story, but like the pacing of the humor.
That was what my problem was. The pacing of the story, it's a little bit odd because there are things that feels like it should come back around more and then it's dropped like the Exorcist dude. Mm-hmm. I kind of like that he came back, but when he came back, I was like, oh, dude, I forgot about you. Yeah, so it does there is some little weird stuff with the pacing, but I saw so many people online saying that the problem with this show is that it's boring. Everybody kept critiquing it for being boring, and I kind of have to agree with them, not because there aren't good characters, not because there aren't good jokes in here, but the secret to comedy is timing. Mm-hmm. And this show has such weird timing with its jokes because it feels like right before everybody delivers a punchline, they pause for a second. And I kind of realized that, like, I kept thinking, it's like, there's something, it's not that these jokes are bad, I'm just not really laughing at them, and I don't know why I'm not laughing at them. If I look at A plus B equals the punchline, yeah, this should be funny, but it's just not to me. And there came that episode where Lucy was giving advice to the prince who got turned into a pig. Mm-hmm. And Lucy was surrounded by all these women. And the pig asked Lucy a question. And then Lucy took his arms off the women, stepped forward by a step, then delivered the punchline. I was like, no, just deliver the punch. That's it. That's the problem. And after that, I noticed it everywhere. Everybody, rather than going set up, punchline, set up, punchline, set up, punchline, there we go, set up, punchline. It's like, yeah, that's what makes none of these punchlines work. It is the timing is off on almost all of them. And after I realized that, I went, go back to the first 2 seasons of The Simpsons. That show, everybody would just like pause for a second before giving the punchline, or they deliver the punchline so slow. Like everybody just spoke way slower in those first couple seasons of The Simpsons. Or they would take a pause right before they delivered it. And that's one of the reasons the first couple seasons of The Simpsons just weren't that funny of a show. Because the timing was just off on everything. And then I look at this and go, oh, it's the exact same timing on this. And I kind of realized that in the first episode, because there was a moment which they jumped out of a window. Mm-hmm. And they fell so slowly, and the jump out of the window was so slow. I was like, that should be kind of a funny joke of them jumping out of the window. But for some reason, I just don't think it's that funny. And then I was like, yeah, because there's jump. I was like, no, it's like, oh, hey, bam, like leap out the window. Like that's how the joke goes. Yeah, this whole show, it just moves way too slow, and not in terms of plot, I mean in terms of just the delivery of the jokes. I honestly think if you just pace this quicker, and that's, again, the great thing about Netflix. It'd be like, oh, well, if we paced it quicker, then we'd have to write more stuff to fit in the time, because we crammed it all down. No, it's Netflix. You can make this as long as you freaking want. I mean, there are episodes in here that are like 24 minutes, and it's like, that's 3 minutes longer than a typical TV show. Typical TV shows with commercials are 21 minutes. Mm-hmm. You take 3 minutes out of here by just cramming it and making it move faster. Yeah, man, it would work so much better. But also, I just think the characters aren't where they need to be.
Yeah.
And I don't mean in terms of, like, plot, but, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I noticed that too. It's like one of the reasons why I was excited for this. Well, not excited, but like looking forward to. Disenchantment was mostly because like Princess Bean is like, I'm always a sucker for princesses who are like, screw the rules, I want to have fun.
Yeah.
And she was like that, but then it kind of showed her being a failure, and it's like you can't open up with a character kicking ass in a bar fight, and then
she just can't do anything?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of... It really feels like no one on this show knew what these characters were supposed to be.
Yeah.
Which, again, it is because you have multiple writers writing every single one of these episodes, and it's not like The Simpsons at season, 3 or 4, where you had 2 seasons before this, 2, 3, 4 seasons before this, of people who became the writers watching the show going, oh, I know who these characters are, and then they came on board and they knew who the characters were. These characters are still being established right now, and Matt Groening can have his ideas, but Matt Groening isn't writing every episode. Individual people write every single episode, and every single one of them has their own ideas, kind of. But they all know what the jokes are supposed to be, just how the jokes work don't really come into play that much. And yeah, with Princess Bean, it was like, okay, so she's a party girl. I see that's what she's supposed to be, but, I don't... Sometimes she's real hard drinking, but then other times she's, a lightweight almost, or other times she's just a massive screw-up, but then other times, her drinking is a badass thing, but then other times she's just a massive failure at it. But that's not even that bad to me. What was worse to me was just the fact that I don't think that they knew how to write a drunk on this show. I don't think they knew how to write funny drunk on this show. And part of it might be the actress who was playing Bean, because when she was just being normal, I thought she was doing a great job at. But when she had to go in there and just be...
act drunk for the character?
And when she had to act drunk, because she spoke exactly the same when she was drunk that she spoke when she was sober. And I was like, man, you gotta look at, Homer on this one. And it's he gets into that, Dan Castellaneta leans into being drunk when he's sober. It's yeah, it's a cartoon, you kind of have to exaggerate this stuff. But... it feels like they wrote drunk dialogue for her, and she didn't even, slur her words or anything. There was that one scene in which she was being the diplomat and she gets drunk, and she goes up there and she's just saying all this drunk dialogue, but she sounds exactly the same as when she's sober, and it just felt incredibly awkward to me.
It's you mentioned, she sounded high, not drunk.
There's sometimes, it wasn't in that episode, but later on there was an episode where she was just saying the drunk dialogue that they gave her. And I was like, that's not drunk dialogue, that's high dialogue. Which, if you just wanted to make it, there is one episode where she does, do drugs other than alcohol, but it's nah, man, if that's the kind of, drunk dialogue you're going to write for her, you need to just have her do everything. Just have that be, her big running gag. But yeah, it's so odd that it doesn't feel like they know how to write her to be that, the right combination. Is
right.
Either have her be kind of like Homer, where she's an absolute just wreck, or have her be like Bender, where she drinks something incredibly toxic and is just fine, and you make jokes about her having a magic liver or something, and you make her that much of a drinking badass. It felt like it kept constantly going back and forth on that one. But she isn't nearly the worst on this.
No, that's definitely Elfo.
Elfo, here's the thing. Bean, I had problems with because I didn't think that they knew exactly how to write her. I hate Elfo.
Yeah.
I will flat out say that. I don't care. I tried to hold on to that guy. I do not like Elfo.
Yeah, it's with him, it's they were trying to go for, basically, his society. He's supposed to be, innocent and naive, but, he's supposed to be the rebel, so he's also kind of a pervert and a badass, and not a badass, but a dick.
Yeah.
So it's you can't have someone who's naive and innocent and a pervert and a prick at the same time.
I get the joke that they were going for. The joke is that he's the pervert and dick of the Elf Society, so he gets kicked out. But the pervert and dick of the Elf Society is still the sweetest, kindest, most innocent guy in regular society. So he finds himself thinking he's a badass, but he's not. I get that's the joke they were going with. But the entire time, it was just like watching a square peg being put into a round hole.
Yeah.
It was watching like, man, you're trying to do 2 jokes at the exact same time, and it's a one-way street on this one. Like, you gotta pick a lane, man. You can't have him be the sweet, naive, innocent fool and also the pervert. Because then it just kind of felt creepy whenever he was a pervert. I mean, anytime that he tried to hook up with Bean, it just felt weird to me. It felt very uncomfortable. And part of it is because of just how innocent he was. It just made it seem creepy. It made it almost feel like, not quite at this level, but it almost made it feel like stalker-ish. Where it's like, no, I want to be with you because I love you so much. It's like, you just really kind of just met her. Like, she's really one of the only women you know outside of your society. But he was 100% down with, no, I absolutely love you. And I keep thinking about, like, say, Fry and Leela. Fry, yeah, there was something there in the beginning, but he wasn't instantly every single day just going after Leela. He was going after tons of other women out there. Just every now and again it came up that he was kind of interested in Leela. And Leela never showed, like, that wasn't even part of Leela's storyline until like season 3 of that show. They took a long ass time building that up. But in this, it's just him instantly going at, and yeah, there's that episode where he has to lie about having a girlfriend in another kingdom. I was like, again, this is like the sweet, innocent, stupid thing to do, but we can't have that after some of the other stuff that we have seen in here of him. Plus, that's just such an unoriginal joke, and that's another problem I had with this show. A lot of the jokes really are just not that original, I felt. Like the you have a girlfriend in another kingdom was like, all right, that's whatever. But having also like, I don't want to say this one because it actually was a joke that I kind of enjoyed, but the Exorcist ripoff, I was like, all right, we've kind of seen that before. But there's a lot of other jokes in here that my problem with it isn't so much that we had seen it before, it's that they're just not really good jokes because I don't know if they're supposed to be funny or not.
Yeah, it's
There's many jokes in here.
Yeah, it's like there are many situations where they point something out.
That's exactly it.
And when they do that, it's like, am I supposed to laugh at that, or are they just saying that? Like, is that a joke or just an explanation? Like,
yeah, like the town crier guy.
Yeah.
The perfect example of it is there's an episode in which Bean was returning back to the kingdom and the town crier comes up and goes, "Hear ye, hear ye, the Lady Bean is returning as spotted by Lady Abigail as she was looking out her window at just the right time." And I was like, all right. You literally just described a thing that happened, and it's not a funny thing that happened. And I don't get, was that supposed to be a joke? I don't understand, like, the humor of that at all. But there are a couple of good gags with the town crier, like, but he never got like a solid laugh out. The best he got out of me was a, oh, okay, that's okay. Like, when they were watching the jester while having dinner, and they were like, all right, I'll put on the news. And then the town crier comes in, it's like, we now go live to the courtyard where the knights are returning, and starts walking away. Come along. And it's like, oh, okay, I get it. It's like, that's how the news works. Like, you have to actually go there live. Okay, that's actually not bad. Okay. Yeah, that's the best I got out of him, though. It's just kind of like, oh, okay. But that's kind of the best I got out of most people. I honestly think when it comes to the characters and the jokes they deliver, and also just being where that character needs to be, I think the two best examples in here are Lucy, who, in all honesty, I still think isn't quite there yet.
No.
And a lot of it, again, has to do with the pacing of the delivery of the jokes.
But he is, like, the most developed character out of the main three, I feel.
As far as having a solid, like, the writers know how to write him, absolutely agree with you on that. Every writer who was writing Lucy knew how to write Lucy. But again, it's like, man, you gotta get the pacing of these jokes quicker. Like, you have to have him, when he serves as the punchline for so many jokes, you need to have him go, bam. But for the most part, I felt like his jokes were on point. I felt like they were pretty successful. But as far as having the character, who I feel like everybody actually understood how to write the character, and also just the character was where they needed to be, and they were actually pretty memorable, and had pretty good success rate with the jokes, I think the King actually is the best one. Because the King is an exaggerated character. He is a super exaggerated character. but not to the point where I couldn't stand seeing him in every episode. Not to the point in which he needed to be like a side character. He was kind of like Flanders on The Simpsons. Or I'm not just saying this because John DiMaggio did the voice of both of them, but Bender on Futurama, where it's like, yeah, he is a super exaggerated character, but you still got just enough depth to him. I was like, okay, he is actually a realistic figure. But also, all of his gags, it felt like everybody knew, yeah, he is working class average Joe guy who also happens to be the king. That's it. It's like, okay, everybody knew what to write for that. And also I felt like pretty much all of his gags actually tended to work pretty darn well. And again, a lot of that has to do with the fact that John DiMaggio is just a genius voice actor. He knew how to deliver every single one of those lines. But he had a lot of very well written lines too. Like, I love the scene where they were coming back from the party, where they were coming back and Bean had thrown the party, and they had to clean everything up in time. And they're like, yes, everything worked out just fine here. And he was like, well, that's good then. Dad, why are you talking like that? I had a stroke on my way back. I was like, that's an actual good gag. I know it's actually pretty good, because he's talking the same way that they were talking, but they have to question why he's talking like that. Yeah, stroke. Okay, that's good. Alright, that's nice. But even when the lines weren't anything special for that character, again, I think John DiMaggio knew the exact way to deliver every single one of those lines. Like, anytime that he referred to Lucy as a talking cat, that could be a running gag that got really old, but just the fact that John DiMaggio always delivered it like, how's a cat learn to talk? Oh, honey, you take your special talking cat and go. It's like, just the way that he delivered that, I was like, okay, that's actually kind of enjoyable. And I mean, he has a great delivery. Like, his last line of the entire season, I thought was one of the best lines in the entire show, when his queen, who had returned from the dead, was trying to destroy the entire kingdom, which, by the way, I called that the moment that we saw one person in the town turn into a statue. Like, I don't know if you figured it out early, but I knew that instantly. It's like, no, it's the old queen. She's gonna turn evil. It's all right. I get this. But at the end, when he is like hanging off of his castle and he's yelling, "My wife is trying to destroy the town," one of them goes, "Which one?" He goes, "I sure do know how to pick 'em, don't I?" That's actually, like, that's a pretty decent line, but his delivery was amazing. Yeah, John DiMaggio just constantly impressed me all throughout this. But aside from him, yeah, I didn't really care about really any of the characters in here. I mean, I didn't hate any of them except for Elfo. I think they're all kind of just very at the ground level, and they're waiting to be built up. Like the queen.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, there's two queens in here.
Yes, there's the
one from the Lizard Kingdom or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think it's more like amphibian.
More like amphibian, you're right. I thought the premise behind her was okay, but again, it just didn't feel like they knew what jokes to write for her. And she's being voiced by Tess McNeil. Tess McNeil is a legend.
Oh, yeah.
She's an amazing voice actress, but there's only so much that she could do with the lines that she was being given, and that she wasn't being given really hardly anything that great. Man, speaking of other characters in here who I thought were just kind of a waste, and speaking of that queen, her and the king's son.
Oh, yeah.
Man, they did not want to write that character at all. Because there came that moment in which it was like halfway through the freaking season, in which it was the episode where they had to go on the diplomatic mission over to the amphibian kingdom, and Bean gets wasted, and they're like, oh, we gotta have someone else give this speech. Here, Junior, you get up there and you give the speech. And I was like, this would be such a funnier setup if I knew anything about this kid. This kid has been in like 5 episodes of this show, and he's always just been silently standing there.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, what's the deal with this kid? Like, I don't know anything about him. And this is like the big moment where the jokes of what kind of a character he is supposed to come into play, but you haven't established any of that. He is such a nothing character. It wasn't until like the final episode when he goes, I'm still having nightmares about that big skill. And it's like, okay, so he's supposed to be like a weenie?
I guess.
Wow, man, 10 episodes. And that is the best I can get for someone who seems like he should be kind of an important character in this. It's Bean's little brother. Imagine watching like 10 episodes of The Simpsons and you still have no idea what kind of a character Lisa is. Yeah, it just felt very bizarre to me that it took them that long to come up with anything for that kid. And even then it was like, wow, that's nothing. So yeah, this show, it doesn't do the best job of establishing characters. But I did like some of the one-off characters. Like, I really like the giant that came there. She was actually a really good character.
Yeah, I'm hoping she like comes back in like a future episode, like where she has like a bigger role.
Yeah, she was in one episode of this with a tiny appearance in another episode.
Yeah.
So like 1.5 episodes. She's like my third favorite character in this entire show. Yeah, it's kind of sad to say that. She might be on the same level as Lucy because she actually had a better success rate with her jokes. But it's not even like the cast is bad on this.
No,
what was it, Eric Andres as Lucy? He freaking nails that character. It's just, again, like, man, you gotta get the delivery faster and you gotta have a better success ratio with the lines that they're writing for this character. But we've been mostly like bad-mouthing this.
No, it's like
again, I'm like, it's very okay. Like, there were no groan-worthy jokes.
Yeah.
Elfo got pretty close, though. I will say that. Also, that joke in the very first episode of like the poor pilgrims just being like, "No, don't praise us. We can't take your praise." That joke went on a little too long. There's some jokes that go on too long.
Yeah.
But there aren't really groan-worthy jokes. Just kind of like roll your eye jokes. But I only got like, out of the entire 10 episodes, I got like maybe like 5 actual out loud laughs. But that isn't to say that I didn't get some like,
And it's like I think my favorite is when they go after the vial, because the little the tube for the elixir.
The one where they find like the kingdom with all like the stone people. Yeah.
Yeah, because like, you know, that's the kind of stuff you expect from like a fantasy. You expect like adventure and like going to like far off places.
Oh shoot! I had not even thought about this until you brought it up, but you're right. They don't do nearly enough with this concept.
Yeah, it's like basically when I heard the premise is like, this is a princess who doesn't want to follow the rules. Like, she's gonna run away from her wedding and she's gonna go on an adventure with this elf and demon, and then it's like, she's staying in her kingdom.
She just hangs out. Yeah, the trailer for this, I mean, I don't know if you saw the trailer, but the trailer makes it seem like, no, she is on the run, and it felt like it was going to be like, hey, this princess who's never been in the real world now has to make it in the real world. It's like, man, there's tons of jokes like fish out of water style humor that you can do with that. Fish out of water style humor is exactly what Futurama was for 4 or 5 seasons there. Yeah, I know that this team can do stuff like that. No, they don't.
No, it's like...
And it's not... And... The other thing is like, well, it's a bunch of nerds writing this. I know it's a bunch of nerds because it's Matt Groening, and even though David X. Cohen, I think, only directed like 1 episode of this, he's still involved in some way, shape, or form. He's the guy behind Futurama, and I listened to all the DVD commentaries on the Futurama. Man, those guys are insane when it comes to the level of geekiness that they're at. Like, they know everything about science fiction and fantasy that you could imagine. So, like, man, those guys, they're gonna come up with so many things for them to do. They really don't.
No.
I did not think about that until now, because I was just, like, judging the characters and stuff.
No, it's like, I was judging it, like, for more of the story. And, like, plotline stuff.
Yeah, it's so weird that... Again, you think about, like, this is to fantasy what Futurama was to science fiction. Second episode of Futurama, they go to the moon. And it goes nuts. It goes even higher from there. Like, they're going to so many different crazy places. And again, they did have the down-to-earth episodes in there. They had the episode where Bender and Fry just had to find an apartment.
Yeah.
They had the episode where Fry finds out that he's a millionaire. It's like, okay, that's some fun stuff that, like, you could do that in any time period. But yeah, they swung for the fences with a lot of those episodes. And I'm thinking about this one, it's like, okay, was there even like a dragon anywhere in here? No. Okay, there was one giant. All right, there's the giant. She was pretty good. They went for the vial in that one place and everything was cursed. Okay, that's cool. That's good.
They had a griffin there too, so yeah.
There was a griffin, yeah.
The witch?
Yeah, there was kind of a witch in there.
There were elves.
But it was just Hansel and Gretel that episode. Like, that's not that creative. Like, we all know Hansel and Gretel. Like, you watch Futurama, and again, I listen to the DVD commentaries, like, they're making references in there to things I never even thought about, including a lot of D&D references throughout that. Yeah, it's weird that in their sci-fi show, they actually had more D&D references than their fantasy show. But you're right, man. There really was not a lot that they did with this. They went and saw sirens at one point, but that was resolved and over with in a second.
Yep.
That was just one scene.
Yeah, but like, I'm hoping like...
Wow.
I'm hoping in the second season they actually do have more adventure out there because like, you know, during the end, it's
where
like,
it sets up is like they can't go to the kingdom anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, so they have to go on an adventure. Like,
I'm also really hoping that in the second season they just drop Elfo because there's the big mystery at the end of this of what Elfo is, and I was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
At all. He's part human. I'm like 90% sure he's part human, and if I'm wrong, I don't care either. It's, oh man. But yeah, it really feels like they just didn't go as far as they could, and the thing is, with any other show, I'd be like, well, it's a budget thing. They couldn't. It was like, no, this is animated. I mean, it'd be one thing if it was like, yeah, it's animated, but we're still on budget, so we can't, like, leave the kingdom. They would leave the kingdom in a lot of those episodes, and it would be boring. Mm-hmm. It would be like, oh, we go on a diplomatic mission to this place surrounded by fish people. Okay, are you gonna do, like, some cool, like, underwater, like, remember when Futurama discovered the lost city of Atlanta? Mm-hmm. Oh, man, that was good. No, they're just very polite. Alright. Cool. That's great. Like, yeah, that was really even the one gag they had for that. Although a good gag they did have in that is that they had to watch the play about the entire history of their two tribes, and it was performed by children, and it was 5 hours long. And I just keep looking at that, it's like, wow, me too, King. Oh my god, it was long already. Wow, you're right, I can't believe I didn't even think about that. They have the scene where, like, they try to kill all the demons by throwing them into, like,
the lava
pit, but it's like, that is one quick thing at the end of the episode, and at the end of it, they unleash all the demons. Oh man, so there's just demons going around now?
Like, oh, so you
never see that shit again, ever. Wow. I was about to go, but here's all the positive stuff about this show. No man, fuck this. Yeah, this is absolute wasted potential. My hat is also, there we go. Perfect. Now I can concentrate. Wow. Okay, positives.
Well, I mentioned that I liked the scenery. I like the way
the sets are actually really good in this.
I like the way the backgrounds were drawn. It felt like more of like a folky fairy tale vibe to it.
Yeah, like I do actually think that the background artists are doing probably the best job of anybody on this show. Speaking of that, what do you think of the designs for all the characters?
Typical?
Yeah, really fucking basic, wasn't it? And Matt Groening, again, I listened to the DVD commentaries on all the Simpson and Futurama DVDs I have, and Matt Groening, he always talks about how he is a firm believer in the Walt Disney theory of designing characters, that you should be able to recognize these characters just from their silhouettes. And yeah, you look at the Simpsons, that's, they stand out easily, like, their hair even, like, is, like, specifically designed. But you go to Futurama, where it's like, okay, they're not nearly as cartoonish looking, they're still, you can instantly identify them. Like, Fry has got that very distinct, like, hairdo. Leela, very distinct ponytail, very distinct, like, hair coming out of the top, big roundness on the front from the eyeball. Yeah, and even, like, her stance, like, how she stands, it is very distinct. Hermes, like, short, stocky, fat guy, dreadlocks coming out, bam, glasses in the front, I understand all that. The Professor, weird hunched over shoulder, weird egg-shaped head. Yeah, man, even though these are, like, regular-looking humans, like, they have enough distinction to them that you understand it. Elfo's just an elf. That's it, like, if you took, like, the silhouettes of all the other elves in this show and asked me to find, like, Elfo in there, I wouldn't be able to do that. And honestly, if I just saw a silhouette of Elfo, I'd think it's just a typical elf. Like, it looks like the elves from The Simpsons. Like, remember, like, the first two seasons?
Yeah, like
they haven't used them in forever, but on the first two seasons of The Simpsons, where, like, Maggie was a big fan of an elf cartoon show.
Yeah, like, they would, like, put it on for us. Like, I'm wondering, like...
It's just them.
like, I was wondering if that was meant to be a throwback, and if it was,
man,
then...
I had that thought, and I'm hoping it's true, because if it's not, it's just lazy. Like, it had better be a callback. It had better be homage, because if it's not homage, it is lazy. But even, like, you know, Lucy is nothing but the silhouettes.
Yeah.
Which I'm wondering if that's meant to be, like, him kind of, like, going, like, doing that on purpose because he believes that you should be able to identify the characters from silhouettes. So, hey, what if we made a character that was nothing but silhouettes? Although he's kind of like a living shadow, so I guess that. But even so, it's a very basic design to him. It's really... I don't want to just use the word basic again, but it's like... No, it's like, bam, 2 horns, big nose, tail. That's it. It's like, you could have been a little bit more. Like, the horns aren't even, like, going at interesting angles, just like, boop. Yeah, that's it. So I feel like Lucy, I get the design behind him, but it's, like, still really basic. The king at least has the hair going out in a unique way, but that's really all he's got. And Bean, she's got the buck teeth, but you can't identify the buck teeth from the silhouettes. But, like, you see the buck teeth on the face when it's not the silhouette, when you're just looking at her normally. Okay, that's good. I like the buck teeth on there. Buck teeth, good, makes her stand out. But, like, hair totally normal, face totally normal aside from that. Her body type, nothing really stands out about that. Like, she's not tall, she's not short, she's average size. She's not fat, she's not thin, she's average weight. It's like, all right, it's a thing. It's the buck teeth is really all that she has. And it's like, all right, like, her outfit, it's blue. That's it. And, you know, again, you think about, like, Futurama, it's like, man, Fry's red jacket, very distinct. But it's very distinct because of, like, also the way that was drawn. This, it's just a blue shirt. You know, like, his red jacket is partly distinct because of, like, how it clashes with the other colors on his body, how it goes along with his red hair. It's a blue shirt. I don't even remember what color her pants are. Really, honestly.
I think it was like tan.
Like tan, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, it was the medieval times, so they didn't really have denim or anything.
Exactly, but, like, yeah, you could have, like, designed, like, you know, done, like, something special with, like, the shoulders, like, made them, like, big ball shoulders, made them, like, ripped shoulders or something. And yeah, I just felt like it was everything in here just looks way too basic. And coming from a guy who, you know, I point out that Matt Groening, his biggest talent is that he hires the right people to write his characters. He is a good character designer. I mean, he's created characters that have stuck with us for decades now because they're so memorable. None of these people are really memorable to me. And it's kind of weird to me that, like, you know, again, you look at Bean, she is supposed to be like a regular human, but so was Fry, so was Amy from Futurama, so was Hermes, but all of them have hair that you could identify from their silhouettes. Like, Amy has probably the most normal hair out of anyone, still very distinct when you put it in silhouette form. This, hair. That's it. It's like, not gonna give it like one little like cowlick or something. Like, one little cowlick would have changed so much about her character, or like one little curl at the very end or something, or... Man, I don't know, like a headband or something that she could wear with like a top and a tie in the back so we could see like something, like anything. Like, I'm just throwing out anything to try and make these characters look more unique and more distinct. And yeah, I just thought they were way too basic. Not bad. I have to come in here and like just clarify. The character designs are not bad in this show. They're just okay.
I think that's just what Disenchantment is. It's just an okay show.
It's okay.
But I do believe there is a lot of potential for it to get better.
We have to close on that. We have to return to this. Nothing in here, like, burns this thing to the ground before it can get built up.
No.
This entire first season, it was a bare wood floor. But you can build a lot of stuff on a bare wood floor. Like, there is a firm ground on this show.
Right.
They are not building this in a swamp. It's not going to, like, sink if they try and put any weight on. No, you are on firm ground here. But, yeah, second season's going to have to start building this stuff up.
Right.
There is enough here that's like, you know what, it's all right. Like, I'm not mad that I watched these 10 episodes.
No.
In the end, I actually did enjoy more about this than I didn't enjoy.
Yeah.
Like, I did come out more on the positive side than on the negative side. But yeah, this show, it's got that potential. It's got that potential to be something really good. And we need to start seeing that in season 2.
Yeah.
It has the advantage of being on Netflix, where you can just go, all right, it's on. Okay, that first episode wasn't anything great. Oh, second episode starting up. I got nothing better to do. All right, keep it going. 4 episodes in. Am I still watching this? Who wants to know if I'm still watching this? Yeah, I'm still watching this. Like, it's that kind of a show. Like, where it's like, it is a lazy Sunday TV show. You got 5 hours to blow on a lazy Sunday. This is what you watch. But yeah, that's it. Thanks, everyone. We have... Normally, for the post Geekout reaction, we review movies here, but every now and again, there is a TV show that is worth talking about. Typically, for us, it tends to be animated series, but that's just how we roll. But we will be having later today the Happy Time Murders post Geekout reaction. I won't spoil my thoughts on that one. I will instead just close with the greatest theme song of 2018.
Hey! Hey!
Oh, we've been copyright claimed. It was too good.
Oh,
it was too accurate to that. Bye.
Bye.